Human adopts a cat-like alien girl as a pet. Now they have kittens together. The neon-drenched streets of New Australis pulsed with their usual chaotic energy as Richard Hayes made his way through the crowded thoroughfare. His sleek black stealth suit, still bearing the scorch marks from his latest mission, drew curious glances from the diverse crowd of humans and aliens alike. The towering skyscrapers above cast their multicolored glow across the rain-slick streets, creating an ever-shifting kaleidoscope of light that danced across the chrome and glass surfaces of the megalopolis. Richard had just finished delivering his report to Central Command, another successful infiltration of a Drachnid weapons facility. The mission had gone smoothly, though he'd had to improvise when their security protocols proved more advanced than Intel had suggested. Still, nothing he couldn't handle. Now all he wanted was to get home, grab a shower, and maybe indulge in some real Earth whiskey, the good stuff he'd been saving for special occasions. The crowd parted suddenly, and that's when he saw her. She was crouched in a doorway, trying to shelter from the constant drizzle. Her skin was a striking shade of emerald green that seemed to shimmer under the neon lights, matching her long, straight hair that cascaded down her back. She wore what appeared to be some kind of revealing black outfit, tattered and dirty but still maintaining an exotic allure. A collar adorned her neck, not uncommon for her species, the Phylixians, who often wore them as status symbols. But what caught Richard's attention wasn't her appearance, striking as it was, but the way she moved. Despite her bedraggled state, there was an unmistakable grace to her movements, something feline and precise. She was clearly a Phylixian, one of the humanoid cat-like species from the Andromeda Galaxy. But there was something different about her, something that made him pause. The Phylixian noticed his attention and looked up, revealing vibrant green eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. She tilted her head curiously, in that distinctly feline way that her species was known for. "Are you going to stand there all night, human?" she asked, her voice carrying a musical lilt despite its weariness. "Or are you going to offer a lady some assistance?" Richard couldn't help but smile. "That depends on the kind of assistance you're looking for." She stood up, moving with that fluid grace that seemed second nature to her kind. "My name is Atala," she said, performing a small curtsy that seemed at odds with her current situation. "And I find myself temporarily without accommodation." "Temporarily?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "A series of unfortunate events," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Nothing too dramatic, just the usual. Corrupt landlord, missing credits, a dash of speciesism." She shrugged, but Richard could see the tension in her shoulders. "And the collar?" Her hand went to it reflexively. "A reminder of better days, when I was someone's companion." She said the word carefully, as if testing its weight. Richard knew he should walk away. Getting involved with strays, especially alien strays, was never simple. But there was something about her that tugged at him. Maybe it was the way she held herself with dignity despite her circumstances. Or maybe it was just that he was tired of coming home to an empty apartment. "I have a spare room," he heard himself saying, "until you can find something more permanent." Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment he saw something vulnerable there. Then it was gone, replaced by a playful smile. My, how generous, and what would you expect in return for such kindness?" "Nothing," Richard said firmly. "Just basic house rules. Clean up after yourself. No wild parties. No bringing home friends." She laughed then, a sound like silver bells. "You humans, always so serious." She stepped closer, moving into his personal space with feline grace. "And if I promise to be a good kitty?" Richard felt his heart rate increase slightly but kept his expression neutral. "Then we won't have any problems. The offer stands. Take it or leave it." Atala studied him for a long moment, her green eyes seeming to peer into his soul. Finally, she nodded. "I accept your terms, human. Lead the way to your domain." As they walked through the neon-lit streets, Richard couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to become significantly more complicated. He just didn't know how right he was. The walk to Richard's apartment was filled with curious glances from passers-by. A human in a stealth suit walking alongside a green-skinned Phylixian wasn't exactly a common sight, even in New Australia's diverse streets. "You're military," Atla said suddenly. Her eyes fixed forward. It wasn't a question. "Special operations," Richard replied, seeing no point in denying it. His suit was a dead giveaway to anyone who knew what to look for. Dangerous work, she purred, casting him a sidelong glance. Is that why you live alone? Too risky to form attachments? Richard chuckled. You're making a lot of assumptions. Am I wrong? He didn't answer, instead leading her into one of the towering residential complexes that dotted the city. The building was older than most, but well-maintained, a rarity in this part of town. The security scanner recognized him immediately, and the doors slid open with a soft hiss. Fancy, Atala commented, running her hand along the polished wall as they entered the elevator. Special operations must pay well. Well enough, Richard said, pressing the button for the 47th floor. Though I prefer to think of it as compensation for the risk of getting shot at regularly. The elevator ride was silent after that, but Richard could feel Atala's eyes on him, studying him with that intense feline curiosity. When they reached his floor, he led her down the corridor to his apartment. The door opened to reveal a spacious living area with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city. The decor was minimal, but tasteful, a few pieces of art on the walls, a comfortable-looking couch, and a state-of-the-art entertainment system. Atala moved immediately to the windows, pressing her hands against the glass as she looked out at the neon landscape below. Beautiful, she breathed. The spare room is this way, Richard said, heading down a short hallway. Bathrooms across the hall, kitchen's fully stocked if you're hungry. The spare room was simple but comfortable, with a bed, dresser, and its own smaller window. Atala walked in slowly, running her hand along the bed's surface. Why are you doing this? She asked suddenly, turning to face him. You don't know me. I could be anyone. A thief, a spy, an assassin. Richard leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms. Are you? She smiled, showing just a hint of fang. Number, but you couldn't know that. Let's just say I'm a good judge of character, Richard replied. And you don't strike me as the type to bite the hand that feeds you. No, she agreed, her smile turning playful. Not unless asked nicely. Richard felt his face heat slightly but maintained his composure. I'll let you get settled. There are fresh towels in the bathroom if you want to clean up. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Richard? He looked back to find her expression suddenly serious. Thank you. He nodded once and left, closing the door behind him. In the living room, he poured himself that whiskey he'd been thinking about earlier. As he sipped it, looking out over the city, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change dramatically. The sound of the shower starting up drifted from down the hall, and with it came the faint sound of humming, a melody he didn't recognize but found strangely soothing. Richard smiled to himself. Whatever happened next, at least things wouldn't be boring. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across Richard's living room. He was already up, going through his morning workout routine, when Atala emerged from her room. She moved with that characteristic feline grace, wearing one of his old t-shirts that hung loosely on her slender frame. You humans and your obsession with physical exercise, she purred, watching him complete a set of push-ups. Fascinating. Richard stood up, grabbing a towel to wipe the sweat from his face. Some of us have to work to maintain our strength. We can't all have naturally perfect physiques like Felixians. Atala stretched languorously, the movement causing the oversized shirt to ride up slightly. Perfect, you say? Her green eyes sparkled with mischief. My, have you been admiring my physique, Richard? He felt his face warm slightly but maintained his composure. Just stating a biological fact. Your species is known for its natural athletic abilities. Among other things, she said with a playful wink, patting into the kitchen. Do you have any milk? Real milk, not that synthetic stuff. Top shelf in the cooling unit, Richard replied, following her. I prefer the real thing myself. Atala retrieved the milk container, then paused, looking at it uncertainly. How do humans usually… Richard couldn't help but smile. He grabbed a glass from the cabinet and handed it to her. How we typically don't drink straight from the container. Oh, she accepted the glass, looking slightly embarrassed. Of course, I knew that. Sure you did, he teased, enjoying the way her green skin darkened slightly in what he assumed was a blush. They settled into a comfortable breakfast routine, with Richard preparing something he hoped would appeal to her carnivorous preferences. As he cooked, Atala perched on one of the kitchen stools, watching him with obvious curiosity. You know, she said, sipping her milk, on my world, males typically don't prepare food. It's considered beneath them. Richard flipped the protein-rich omelet with practiced ease. Well, on Earth, anyone who wants to eat well learns to cook. Besides, I live alone. Who else would do it? You could have a companion, Atala suggested, her tone casual but her eyes intent. Someone to take care of such things for you. Like a pet, Richard asked, raising an eyebrow. Atala's tail twitched. Perhaps, though Felixian companions are hardly mere pets, we're quite capable of complex relationships. The air between them suddenly felt charged with unspoken possibilities. Richard focused on plating their breakfast, trying to ignore the way his heart rate had increased. I've noticed you're quite different from other Felixians I've met, he said, changing the subject as he set their plates down. They tend to be more reserved. Atala took a delicate bite of her omelet, her eyes widening in pleasure. This is delicious, and yes, most of my kind maintain a certain distance from other species, but I've always found humans fascinating. She leaned forward slightly. You're all so passionate, so driven. You face impossible odds with unwavering determination. It's quite attractive. Richard nearly choked on his coffee. You seem to know a lot about humans. I observe, I learn. She tilted her head, studying him. For instance, I've noticed how your heart rate increases when I'm near, how your pupils dilate when I stretch, how you try very hard not to stare when I move in certain ways. Richard cleared his throat. That's quite observant of you. Felixians have enhanced senses, she reminded him with a smile. We can hear heartbeats, smell pheromones, detect the smallest changes in body temperature. She leaned even closer. It makes for interesting observations. Before Richard could respond, his comm unit buzzed. He checked it, grateful for the interruption. Work, he said, standing up. I need to go in for a briefing. Duty calls, Atala said, her voice holding a note of disappointment. Will you be gone long? Shouldn't be more than a few hours. Make yourself at home, but try not to scratch up the furniture. She stuck her tongue out at him. Very funny. I'll have you know I'm perfectly well behaved when I choose to be. As Richard prepared to leave, Atala followed him to the door. Richard, she called as he stepped into the hallway. Thank you again. For everything. He turned back to find her looking unusually vulnerable. You're welcome, Atala. Throughout the briefing at Central Command, Richard found himself distracted by thoughts of his unusual house guest. The way she moved, the playful glint in her eyes, the subtle flirtations. Hey! His commander's sharp voice snapped him back to attention. Are you with us? Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. The briefing continued, but Richard's thoughts kept drifting. He knew he was playing with fire. Interspecies relationships weren't uncommon in New Australis, but they were complicated. And Atala, there was still so much he didn't know about her. When he returned home that evening, he found his apartment transformed. The living room had been rearranged slightly with the furniture positioned to create cozy nooks and comfortable spaces. Soft music played in the background, an interesting blend of earth jazz and what sounded like Felixian harmonics. Atala was curled up on the couch reading something on a datapad. She'd found more of his old clothes, this time wearing a pair of his workout shorts and another t-shirt. The sight of her making herself at home in his space stirred something unexpected in his chest. Welcome back, she said without looking up. I hope you don't mind the changes. Felixians are particular about spatial arrangement. It's a comfort thing. It looks good, he admitted, dropping his gear by the door. Very homey. She set aside the datapad and stretched, the movement drawing his eye despite his best efforts. I also prepared dinner. Nothing fancy, just some protein strips and vegetables I found in your storage unit. I thought, well, you cooked for me, so... Richard was touched by the gesture. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. She stood up, moving closer to him. You've been very kind to me, Richard. Kinder than anyone has been in a long time. She was standing very close now, close enough that he could smell her unique scent, something wild and exotic, like night-blooming flowers and warm spices. So, Atala, he began, not sure what he was going to say. Shh, she placed a finger against his lips. You humans think too much. Sometimes it's better to just feel. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Richard's comm unit buzzed again, making them both jump. I should. He gestured vaguely toward the kitchen. Of course, Atla stepped back, her smile knowing. Dinner's getting cold anyway. As they ate, they talked about lighter things, the differences between their cultures, funny stories from their past, their favorite spots in New Australis. But underneath the casual conversation ran a current of tension, of unspoken attraction growing stronger by the minute. Later that night, as Richard lay in bed, he could hear Atla moving around in her room. The soft sounds of her presence were somehow comforting, making his usually empty apartment feel like a home. He knew he was falling for her, and falling hard. The question was, what was he going to do about it? A week had passed since Atala moved in, and Richard's apartment had never felt more alive. The air was charged with an energy that made every moment feel significant, every glance meaningful. Tonight, though, something was different. Richard returned from Central Command later than usual, his muscles tense from a particularly stressful briefing. The mission parameters he'd been given were complex, dangerous, the kind that kept him awake at night. He found Atla waiting for him, perched on the windowsill. The neon lights of New Australis painted her green skin in shifting colors, making her look almost ethereal. She'd fashioned one of his shirts into a sort of dress, cinched at the waist with a piece of cord. "Rough day?" she asked, her tail swishing slowly. "That obvious, huh?" Richard dropped his gear and ran a hand through his hair. "Your shoulders are tight, your jaw is clenched, and you're doing that thing with your hands." She gestured to where he was unconsciously flexing his fingers. "Want to talk about it?" He hesitated. "It's classified." "Ah." She slipped down from the windowsill with fluid grace. "Then perhaps you need a distraction." Before he could ask what she meant, she was behind him, her hands on his shoulders. Her touch was electric, sending warmth through his entire body. "On my world," she said softly, working the tension from his muscles, "companions are trained in many arts. Healing is one of them." Richard tried to focus on breathing normally. "Is that what you were? A companion?" Her hands paused briefly. I was many things. But yes, I was trained as a companion, though I never actually served as one." "Why not?" She resumed her massage, her touch somehow both soothing and exciting. "I was too independent, too curious about other worlds, other species, particularly humans." Her voice dropped lower. "They fascinate me. Your strength, your determination, your capacity for both violence and tenderness." Richard turned to face her, catching her hands in his. "Atala, I need to tell you something," she said quickly, "about why I was really on the street that night." He led her to the couch, maintaining a respectful distance, despite every instinct urging him closer. "I'm listening." "I wasn't just homeless," she began, her tail curling around her legs. "I was running from my family, my responsibilities, my predetermined fate." She touched her collar absently. It marks me as a purebred companion, destined to be paired with a high-ranking Felixian noble. But I didn't want that life. So you ran. Yes, I'd heard stories about Earth, about humans, how you value freedom, choice, individual will. I wanted that. She looked at him intently. "To choose my own path." Richard absorbed this information, understanding dawning. "That's why you were so willing to come home with me. You needed somewhere to hide." "At first, yes," she admitted. "But then—" She moved closer, her green eyes luminous in the dim light. "Then I got to know you. Your kindness, your strength, your respect for my independence while still caring for my needs." His comm unit buzzed, making them both jump. The message was brief but urgent. "Mission parameters updated. Immediate action required." "I have to go," he said, standing quickly. "Emergency at work?" Atala caught his hand. "Be careful, Richard." "Please." He squeezed her hand gently. "Always am." The mission was straightforward but dangerous. Infiltrate a suspected weapons facility on the outskirts of New Australis. But something felt off from the start. The security was too light, the resistance too weak. Then he found the real target, a hidden laboratory containing research on interspecies genetics. And there on a display screen was a familiar green face. Subject A137, the file read. Purebred Felixian companion. Genetic compatibility with human DNA confirmed. Current status, missing. Richard's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about weapons, it was about Atala, about creating hybrid beings for some unknown purpose. He downloaded the files and got out fast, his mind racing. When he returned home, he found Atala pacing anxiously. "You're back." She rushed to him, then stopped short at his expression. "What's wrong?" He told her everything he'd discovered. As he spoke, her face paled, the green of her skin taking on a sickly tinge. "They found me," she whispered. "They'll never stop looking." "Who are they, Atala?" "What do they really want?" She sank onto the couch, suddenly looking very small. "The Genetic Council. They've been experimenting, trying to create perfect hybrid beings. They discovered that certain purebred Felixians, like me, are compatible with human DNA. They wanted to use me as a breeding vessel, to create a new species that would combine human strength with Felixian abilities." Richard sat beside her, taking her trembling hands in his. "That's not going to happen. I won't let them take you." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Why? Why would you risk everything for me?" "Because," he cupped her face gently, "because somewhere between finding you in that doorway and right now, I fell in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with truth and possibility. Then Atala surged forward, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that felt like coming home. What followed was a night of passionate discovery, of two beings from different worlds finding perfect harmony in each other's arms. Their connection transcended physical attraction, becoming something deeper, more profound, a joining of souls as much as bodies. Later, as they lay tangled together, Atala traced patterns on his chest with her fingers. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have since that first night, when you offered me shelter without asking anything in return." Richard pulled her closer, breathing in her exotic scent. "We'll figure this out, Atala. Together." "Together," she agreed, snuggling into his embrace. Neither of them knew it then, but their union that night would have consequences beyond their wildest dreams, consequences that would change both their lives forever. The morning sun painted New Australis in shades of amber and rose, finding Richard and Atala tangled together in the sheets. Their night of passion had changed everything, deepening their connection in ways neither had anticipated. Atala stirred first, her feline senses alerting her to subtle changes in her body. Something felt different, a warmth in her core, a shift in her biochemistry that her enhanced awareness couldn't ignore. "Richard," she whispered, trailing her fingers along his jawline. "Wake up, my brave human." He opened his eyes, immediately alert. A soldier's instinct, but his expression softened when he saw her, remembering the night they'd shared. "Good morning, beautiful." She purred contentedly, but couldn't shake her growing awareness of the changes within her. "Something's happening to me," she admitted, curling closer to him. "I can feel it." Richard propped himself up on an elbow, concern crossing his features. "Are you all right?" "More than all right," she assured him, placing his hand over her abdomen. "But different, our compatibility. It's more than just physical. I think," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "I think we may have created something extraordinary." His eyes widened as understanding dawned. "You mean?" "It's too early to be certain," she said quickly, "but Felixian females know their bodies intimately. We can sense even the smallest changes." She looked up at him through her lashes. "Are you upset?" Instead of answering, he pulled her into a deep kiss that left them both breathless. "Upset? Atala, you're amazing. You're everything I never knew I wanted." Their moment of joy was interrupted by an urgent buzz from Richard's comm unit. He checked it, his expression darkening. "Command wants to see me immediately." "They know," Atala said softly. "About us. About what happened at the facility." Richard nodded grimly. "Stay here. Stay safe. I'll handle this." Central Command was unusually quiet when Richard arrived. His superior, Commander Thexelar Krav, a stern-faced Centaurian with metallic blue skin and multiple cybernetic enhancements, was waiting in his office, along with two representatives from the Interspecies Relations Bureau. "Sit down, Hayes," Krav ordered, his artificial eyes gleaming. Richard remained standing. "With respect, sir, I prefer to stand." "Always the soldier." Krav clicked his mandibles in what passed for a sigh among his species. "Fine. Let's cut to the chase. You accessed classified files last night, files about a certain Felixian female currently residing in your apartment." "Yes, sir." A female who, according to these files, is part of a highly classified genetic research program. A program that's illegal under both Earth and Felixian law, Richard countered. They're trying to create the forced hybrids. They're trying to advance our species, one of the Bureau representatives interrupted. Both species. Imagine beings with human adaptability and Felixian enhanced abilities. The perfect combination. Perfect slaves, you mean? Richard growled. Bred to order. Krav held up a hand. Enough. Hayes, you're one of our best operatives. Your record is exemplary, which is why we're offering you a deal. Richard felt his stomach tighten. What kind of deal? Work with us, you and the Felixian female. Her name is Atala. You and Atala could be part of something revolutionary, something that could change both our species for the better, voluntarily, of course. Richard laughed bitterly. Voluntary breeding programs? Is that what we've come to? Think about it, the second representative urged. Your offspring would be protected, studied, given every advantage. They'd be lab rats, Richard snapped, and so would we. Krav leaned forward. Son, you don't have many options here. Either work with us or we'll be forced to take more direct action. Richard's mind raced. He needed time, needed resources. Then he remembered something, or rather, someone. 24 hours, he said finally. Give me 24 hours to think it over. Krav nodded slowly. 24 hours, but Hayes? His voice hardened. Don't do anything stupid. Richard left Central Command and immediately activated his secure comm channel. Admiral Parker? It's Hayes. I need to call in that favor you owe me. Back at the apartment, he found Atala pacing anxiously. She rushed to him as soon as he entered, wrapping herself around him with feline grace. They threatened you? She said, not a question. They offered us a deal. He corrected, holding her close. But I have a plan. An old friend owes me a favor. Someone high enough up to help us disappear if necessary. Atala pulled back slightly, her green eyes searching his face. You'd do that? Leave everything behind? For you? For our future? He placed his hand over her abdomen, where their miracle might already be growing, in a heartbeat. She kissed him then, a kiss full of love and promise and possibility. When they parted, she was purring contentedly. I have something to tell you, she whispered. While you were gone, the changes, they're becoming more pronounced. I'm certain now. We're going to have kittens, Richard. Multiple heartbeats. I can sense them. His heart swelled with joy and fierce protectiveness. Then we definitely need to get you somewhere safe. Both of you, all of you, he corrected, smiling. They spent the rest of the day making preparations, sharing tender moments between bouts of planning. Atla's natural feline playfulness emerged despite the tension, keeping their spirits high. As night fell over New Australis, they lay together in bed, their bodies intertwined. The neon lights outside painted patterns across their skin, his golden brown, hers shimmering green. Whatever happens, Atala murmured, I want you to know that you've given me everything I ever dreamed of. Freedom, love, a future. Richard kissed her forehead softly. We're just getting started, beautiful. Tomorrow, we make our own rules. They made love again that night, slower this time, savoring every moment. Both knew that tomorrow would bring challenges, but for now they had this, their love, their connection, their miracle in the making. The meeting point Admiral Parker had chosen was a dimly lit docking bay in New Australis's lower levels. Richard and Atala arrived early, her condition already showing signs that surprised them both. Felixian pregnancies typically progressed faster than human ones, but this was unprecedented. They're growing so quickly, Atala whispered, her hand resting on her slightly swollen abdomen. I can feel them all now. 6 distinct heartbeats, each one strong and unique. Richard wrapped his arm around her protectively, scanning the shadows of the massive docking bay. How are you feeling? Different. Powerful. She leaned into his embrace. It's as if your human strength is somehow enhancing the natural Felixian gestation process. The kittens, they're going to be extraordinary. A soft whirring sound interrupted their conversation. And Admiral Parker emerged from the shadows, his cybernetic leg making a distinctive sound against the metal floor. He was accompanied by two figures in stealth suits similar to Richard's. Hayes, Parker nodded, his weathered face grave. This is more complicated than I initially thought. Richard tensed. What's wrong? The Genetic Council has eyes everywhere. They're monitoring all official transport channels. Parker glanced at Attila, his expression softening slightly. And they're particularly interested in your companion's condition. Attila stepped forward, her green eyes glowing in the dim light. You know about the kittens? The whole damn system knows by now, Parker sighed. Your hybrid pregnancy is causing quite a stir in certain circles. Some are calling it a miracle. Others, a threat. A threat to what? Richard demanded. To the natural order, according to them. To their carefully controlled breeding programs. Parker's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused. But that's not the worst part. One of the stealth-suited figures stepped forward, removing their helmet to reveal a familiar face. The pregnancy is progressing too rapidly, Dr. Jessica Hayes, Richard's sister, explained. The human-Felician hybrid combination is creating something entirely new. Richard stared at his sister in shock. Jessica? You're involved in this. Admiral Parker contacted me because I'm the leading xenobiologist in the sector, she explained, and because he knew you'd trust family. Attila suddenly doubled over, a soft gasp escaping her lips. Richard was at her side instantly, supporting her weight. The kittens, she panted. They're evolving, growing. I can feel them changing. Jessica rushed forward with a medical scanner. Fascinating. The human DNA is accelerating the development process exponentially. At this rate, how long? Richard asked, his voice tight with concern. Days, maybe hours, Jessica replied. We need to get her somewhere safe, equipped for the birth. A sudden alarm blared through the docking bay. Red lights began flashing as security doors slammed shut. They're here, Parker growled, drawing his weapon. The council must have tracked you. Richard's military training kicked in. Options? My ship? Parker gestured to a sleek vessel hidden in the shadows. It's got experimental cloaking tech, but we need to move now. They made their way toward the ship, Richard supporting Attila, while Parker and his other operative provided cover. Jessica followed close behind, monitoring Attila's condition with her scanner. Richard, Attila whispered urgently, I need you close. The kittens respond to your presence. They're stronger when you're near. Understanding dawned on Jessica's face. Of course. The paternal DNA is acting as a stabilizing factor. Richard, stay in physical contact with her. They had almost reached the ship when the first shots rang out. Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Council security forces poured into the bay. Get them aboard, Parker shouted, returning fire. I'll hold them off. Richard started to protest, but Jessica pushed them toward the ship. Go! We've got this! Inside the vessel, Richard guided Attila to a cushioned acceleration couch. She curled around her swollen abdomen, purring softly despite the chaos outside. Our kittens are fighters, she smiled up at him, just like their father. Richard kissed her tenderly, then turned as Jessica rushed aboard, sealing the airlock behind her. Parker? He asked. Creating a diversion, Jessica replied, moving to the ship's controls. He's got a plan, always does. The ship hummed to life, its cloaking technology rendering them invisible just as the bay doors began to open. Through the viewport, they could see Parker and his operative engaging the Council forces, drawing their attention away from the seemingly empty launch area. As they slipped out into the neon-lit skies of New Australis, Attila gasped again, this time in wonder rather than pain. Look, she breathed, guiding Richard's hand to her abdomen. Can you feel them? They're dancing. He could feel it. Tiny movements, strong and coordinated, unlike anything he'd expected. They're amazing, just like their mother. Jessica's voice interrupted their moment. We're headed to a secure facility in the outer colonies. It's officially a research station, but really it's a sanctuary for unique cases like yours. Unique? Attila raised an eyebrow, a hint of her playful nature showing through despite their situation. You two have created something unprecedented, Jessica explained, her scientific excitement evident. A perfect blend of human and Felixian traits, the strength, adaptability, and determination of humanity combined with the grace, enhanced senses, and natural abilities of the Phylixians. And the Council wants to control that, Richard concluded. They want to replicate it, Jessica corrected. But they don't understand that what you have can't be manufactured in a lab. It comes from something deeper. Atala entwined her fingers with Richard's. Love, she said simply. It comes from love. The journey to the outer colonies would take several hours, even at maximum speed. As they traveled, Atala's condition continued to progress rapidly. She alternated between periods of intense physical changes and moments of profound connection with Richard, their bond growing stronger with each passing hour. During one quiet moment, as they lay together in the ship's small medical bay, Atala traced patterns on Richard's chest with her delicate fingers. I never thought I'd find this, she murmured. When I ran away, I was just seeking freedom. Instead, I found a whole new kind of destiny. Richard kissed her forehead softly. We make our own destiny now. You, me, and our little ones. The sanctuary loomed ahead, a massive structure floating in the star-filled void of the outer colonies. Its crystalline spires reflected the light of distant suns, creating an ethereal glow that seemed almost prophetic given their situation. Richard, Atala breathed, her voice tight with urgency. They're coming. Now. Jessica's medical scanner confirmed what Atala's enhanced senses already knew. The kittens are ready. We need to dock immediately. But as their ship approached the sanctuary, proximity alarms began blaring. 3 genetic council vessels decloaked directly in their path, their weapon systems powered up and targeting. Of course they got here first, Richard growled, taking the ship's controls. They've been tracking us the whole time. A transmission cut through their comm system. This is Director Wren of the Genetic Council. Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded. The hybrid specimens must be preserved for the greater good of both our species. Atala hissed, her feline instincts flaring protectively. They will never touch our kittens! Richard shared a look with his sister. Jessica, get Atala to the medical bay. I'll handle this. Richard? Atala caught his hand, her green eyes intense. Remember what I said about the kittens being stronger when you're near? I need you. They need you. A new voice crackled over the comm. Then it's a good thing he's got backup. Admiral Parker's flagship dropped out of hyperspace behind the Council vessels, its impressive weapons array already deployed. Sorry I'm late, Parker's gruff voice continued. Had to pick up a few friends. More ships appeared, Earth military vessels, Phylixian cruisers, even a few independent merchant ships, all positioning themselves between the Council vessels and the sanctuary. The Council doesn't speak for all of us, Parker declared. Some of us believe in letting nature take its course, even if that course is unexpected. Director Wren's voice turned cold. This is bigger than your romantic notions of natural selection, Admiral. The potential of these hybrids is not yours to control. Richard cut in, guiding their ship toward the sanctuary while Parker's fleet provided cover. They're our children, not your specimens. Atala's sudden cry of pain cut through the tension. The kittens were coming, ready or not. The sanctuary's defensive shields parted to allow their ship through, closing immediately behind them to protect against any Council interference. As they docked, a medical team was already waiting. Richard carried Atala to the prepared birthing chamber, a beautiful room with walls that shifted colors in response to emotional energy. The space filled with soft, pulsing light that matched Atala's accelerated heartbeat. The room is designed to create an optimal environment for interspecies births, explained Dr. Lyra, the sanctuary's chief physician. Her own iridescent skin marked her as a hybrid of different alien races. We've never had a human Phylixian birth before, but the principles are universal. What followed was a blur of activity as Atala's labor progressed with supernatural speed. The kittens, enhanced by their unique genetic makeup, were eager to enter the world. Richard never left her side, his presence seeming to stabilize both Atala and the babies. Their connection, already strong, reached new depths as they brought their extraordinary children into the universe. The first kitten arrived with a proud cry that was both human and feline. His skin was a pale jade, his tiny body strong and perfectly formed. Human eyes, bright and alert, peered out from a face that showed subtle Phylixian features. 5 more followed in quick succession, each unique but all bearing beautiful combinations of their parents' traits. Some had Richard's golden brown skin tone with Phylixian markings, others Atala's green coloring with human characteristics. All 6 were male, as Felixian genetics dictated, and all were remarkably aware and active from their first breath. "They're perfect," Atala purred, surrounded by their newborns. "Look how strong they are, how alert." Richard couldn't speak, overwhelmed by the sight of his family. Each tiny face held such intelligence, such potential. Dr. Lyra's scans confirmed what they could all see. These children represent something unprecedented, the perfect balance of both species' best traits. They're stronger than pure humans, more adaptable than pure Felixians, and their cognitive development is off the charts. "They're miracle," Jessica added, her scientific detachment forgotten in the face of such wonder. "Living proof that love transcends species." Through the chamber's windows, they could see the standoff continuing. The council ships remained at a distance, held at bay by Parker's fleet, but unwilling to retreat. They'll never stop trying to get to them," Atala worried, holding their kittens closer. "Actually," Jessica smiled, checking her comm unit, "they might have to. The feeds from the birthing chamber have been broadcasting across all channels. The whole system has witnessed this." Indeed, messages were already pouring in from across known space, supporters rallying to their cause, other hybrid families coming forward, politicians and religious leaders declaring the births a sign of cosmic destiny. The council's authority was already waning. Parker's voice came through their private channel. This might be the push needed to end their genetic manipulation programs entirely. Richard sat on the bed beside Atala, gathering his family close. The kittens purred in harmony, their tiny hands reaching for both parents with complete trust and love. "I never imagined this," Atala whispered, her eyes shining. "When you found me that night, I was just looking for shelter. Instead, I found everything I ever dreamed of." "We both did," Richard replied, kissing her softly. "And this is just the beginning." One of the kittens batted playfully at Richard's finger, showing already the perfect blend of human strength and Felixian grace. Another was attempting to stand, demonstrating remarkable muscle control for a newborn. The others were exploring their surroundings with fascinating combinations of human curiosity and Felixian instinct. "What shall we name them?" Atala asked, watching their sons discover their world. Richard looked at each unique, perfect face, seeing in them the future of both their species. Something that honors both their heritages, something that tells the universe they belong to both worlds and yet are free to create their own. As the new parents began choosing names for their extraordinary children, the standoff outside reached its peaceful conclusion. The council ships, facing overwhelming opposition and public opinion, finally retreated. The sanctuary's walls shifted to a warm, gentle gold, reflecting the joy and peace within. A new chapter was beginning, not just for this unique family, but for all of known space. 1 year had passed since the extraordinary births at the sanctuary. The crystalline spires now served as home to not just Richard and Atala's family, but to dozens of other interspecies couples seeking acceptance and protection. The once secret facility had transformed into a symbol of unity and evolution across known space. Richard stood at the observation deck, watching their 6 sons playing in the specially designed recreation area. At just 1 year old, they were already displaying remarkable abilities that amazed even the sanctuary's experienced staff. Rex, their firstborn, had his father's tactical mind combined with his mother's agility. His jade-colored skin rippled as he led his brothers in what appeared to be a complex strategic game of their own invention. Atlas, golden brown like Richard, but with distinct Felixian features, was already showing incredible strength, easily lifting training weights that would challenge adult humans. The twins, Leo and Lynx, shared their mother's emerald coloring, but their father's determined expression. They moved in perfect synchronization, their movements a beautiful blend of human precision and feline grace. Hunter, with his unique marble-patterned skin mixing both parents' tones, demonstrated remarkable tracking abilities, his enhanced senses surpassing even full-blooded Felixians. And Little Storm, the youngest by mere minutes, combined his father's rugged features with his mother's ethereal beauty. He was the most intuitive of the 6, often sensing emotions before they were expressed. "Watching our little warriors again?" Atala's familiar purr preceded her embrace as she wrapped her arms around Richard from behind. Her scent, always intoxicating to him, had grown even more alluring since the births. "They're incredible," Richard replied, turning to kiss her. Just like their mother." Atala's green eyes sparkled with mischief. Flatterer, though I must admit, human paternal instincts are attractive. Their passionate exchange was interrupted by Jessica's arrival. Sorry to disturb you lovebirds, but you'll want to hear this. The Interstellar Council just passed the Hybrid Rights Act. The Genetic Council has been officially disbanded. The news sparked celebration throughout the sanctuary. The controversial organization that had once hunted them was now consigned to history, replaced by new institutions focused on protecting and supporting natural interspecies relationships. Admiral Parker sends his congratulations, Jessica continued, grinning. He's being promoted to Fleet Commander of the new Interspecies Defense Force. He wants you both involved if you're interested. Richard and Atala shared a look. They had discussed this possibility, using their unique experience to help other couples like themselves. We'll need family quarters on his flagship, Atala said thoughtfully. The Kittens would love space travel. Already arranged, Jessica laughed. Parker thinks your boys might be just what the fleet needs. A new generation of peacekeepers who understand both worlds. As if on cue, all 6 kittens came bounding over, their movements a mesmerizing blend of human and Felixian characteristics. They surrounded their parents, each demanding attention in their own unique way. Tell us the story again, Father, Rex requested, his jade eyes bright with intelligence. About how you found Mother. Yes, please, the others chorused, settling into their favorite storytelling positions. Richard gathered them close, Atala curling up beside him. Well, it was a rainy night in New Australis, and I just finished a mission. As he recounted their tale, now legendary across known space, Richard marveled at how much had changed. From a chance encounter in a neon-lit doorway to this moment, surrounded by the family he never knew he wanted. Life had taken an extraordinary turn. Atala's hand found his, their fingers intertwining as they had that first passionate night. Their connection had only grown stronger, deeper, more profound with each passing day. The kittens listened intently, though they'd heard the story countless times. Each telling seemed to strengthen their understanding of their unique heritage and the love that had created them. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Richard and Atala stood together on their private balcony, watching the stars that would soon become their new home. Any regrets? Richard asked, holding her close. Atala turned in his arms, her green eyes luminous in the starlight. Only that I didn't find you sooner. She pressed closer, her purr deepening. Though we certainly made up for lost time. Their kiss was interrupted by a small sound from the nursery. 6 distinct purrs harmonizing in their sleep, a sound that never failed to fill their hearts with joy. We did good, Richard whispered against her lips. We did amazing, Atala corrected, her tail wrapping around his leg possessively. And we're just getting started. As they sealed their agreement with another passionate kiss, both knew that their story would continue to inspire others across the galaxy. Their love had not only created new life, but had helped forge a new future, one where the boundaries between species dissolved in the face of true connection. Their legacy would live on through their extraordinary children, through the changes they'd helped bring about, and through the countless others who would follow their path to find their own happiness among the stars.